Hey guys, morning. Um, Come on in, sit down, stay a while. Got lots to talk about. Actually, I have some random stuff to talk about for the most part. Uh, yeah, so like this morning I was sitting here and I was having breakfast, and this morning I had yogurt. Yeah, or not yogurt, cheese, a Pete. I was thinking about yogurt, um, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But I had oatmeal for breakfast. I had a lovely oatmeal made by a Quaker, I think that was walnuts, raisins, and apple. It's actually really good. I bought it to try something different. Although it sounded good, which is why I bought it. Why I don't know why anybody buy anything that doesn't sound good, but I bought some. Even though we make a lot of things here from scratch, oatmeal is not one of them. We have plain old oatmeal that we used to cook with, and I'm sure I could have probably grabbed the walnuts out of the cabinet, grabbed some of the canned apples, although really running low on apple products canned wise, and I have raisins, and I could have made my own, but I bought them for another reason. So the other reason involves yogurt. So Chris a while back had started making these little dishes here. I'll show you because I made some this morning. Oh. And what they are, they're like an amazing breakfast in a jar, um, right here. And they are quite tender and delicious. Now, she was making them with oatmeal that is fruit based. So we would go buy the variety packs of fruit and cream oatmeals. And she would make strawberry ones, peach ones, blueberry ones, because that's what came in the variety packs of oatmeal. And for like $4 total, a thing of yogurt, vanilla yogurt, and or two things of vanilla yogurt, I guess in this case, which is like $5 for two of them. And it's the big quart containers of the vanilla yogurt, and a box of cheap fruit cream oatmeal for like a couple bucks for essentially $7-8. You got 8 jars of breakfast. Um, so you couldn't really beat that at $1 a jar. You get a lot of healthiness in this, and it really is good for you. It's low in calories and fills your belly up. You don't really need much more than a jar for breakfast. It's 3/4 cup of yogurt, vanilla yogurt, and one package of oatmeal. So let me put this back real quick. So this morning I made some out of that, and I did it with the walnut apple raisin ones because that would sound good, especially with vanilla yogurt. So I made some of it, and I thought in the process, well, I've actually yet to eat this yogurt or the oatmeal to see if I even liked it. So I had a bowl. Breakfast doesn't always have to be, especially through the week. If you don't have time, you're not always going to get French toast or pancakes or eggs and bacon. I mean, they don't take long to make, but it may take a little more time than you need. Like in the mornings when I open and I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, be ready to go by 6 and out the door. I'm not thinking let's fire up the stovetop and heat up a cast iron skillet and get some bacon and eggs going. That just doesn't always happen. So instead, quick meal right there. I get 3/4 cup of yogurt. I get my allowance of oatmeal of the day. It fills me up and keeps me going, and it's fairly nutritious. You can do cereal. Cereal works too. It's good as a quick breakfast, but it's not horribly healthy for you for the most part. Let's be honest. Kids cereal is way more flavorful and tasty than adult cereal. Um, Cocoa Puffs are a lot more tastier than Cheerios. Cheerios are okay. Rice Krispie treats are okay. Now I will say I do like the corn checks because they're naturally sweet. And they're pretty good for you. But anyhow, it cereal doesn't, on the fill you up level, doesn't seem to last long. And I really think on most cereal boxes it tells you that a serving is a cup. Cup isn't very much. So you ended up eating way more than a serving anyhow. So as far as kids cereals go, they're not really healthy for you. They don't stay with you very long. I have some Nature Valley granola bars that I could use as a quick meal, but one package of granola bars doesn't really fill you up. And you want, especially for breakfast, you want something that fills you up quick, or not fills you up quick, but fills you up is good for you because it starts your gut health, keeps your system running. That's why they call it breakfast. It's break fast. It sets the tone for your stomach and how it's going to process. So you want to have a good breakfast that stays with you for a minute. I mean, you're going to work and then you have a light lunch and then you have a decent dinner, but that's a whole other topic in itself. So that is what I made this morning and what I did. While I was doing that, I was listening to John Oliver talk about, if you don't know who John Oliver is, he's a late night kind of political talk show host. He has guests on there and all that other stuff, but his monologue usually starts out with, it could be a numerous amount of things, but a lot of times it's something on politics or government related at any rate. And he was talking about the national debt and how, and I thought this long before I heard him talk about it, but he was talking about how some government officials will use that as a scare tactic to get their way, as far as, we can't do that, it's going to raise the national debt. Well, national debt in and of itself is a good thing. It's no different than you as an individual being in debt. That gives you credit, it builds your credit, it does a lot of things for you. What we have to watch for on a government level is, what are we spending it on? So it's okay to be in debt as long as you're using it to do something that will potentially help pay off that debt. So like we as taxpayers authorize allowing us to spend, we'll take the new infrastructure bill. We're not going to go a whole lot into it, and I'm not going to pick and choose a side either way, but here's the basics of it. So we asked for, essentially it was $1.8 trillion to do our new infrastructure bill for the U.S. And that'll cover, upgrading our internet, our roads, our bridges, public transportation, and there's a bunch of other things that go into it. But anyhow, so how do we pay that back? Well, commonly you pay your debt back in taxes. Now there are several ways to get taxes, which I'm not going to go into that either, because like I said, I'm going to keep this as neutral as possible. But essentially, your taxes will help to pay that back. So how do you get those taxes? Well, one way is through us. We will help pay down the national debt. Through companies, we'll help pay back the national debt. But then by redoing bridges, roads, adding internet, even our utilities, our electrical utility grid is a hot mess. It's old. It needs updated. So how do you fix all that? Well, you hire people to do that. Okay, so that's part of that $1.8 trillion is hiring those people and paying those people. Well, what comes from that is tax revenue. So it helps to ensure paying that back. So you want to keep your debt and deficit kind of close together. The problem is when you spend it on things that you don't really need. Did you really need that brand new game system? No. What kind of return is it? Your return for value is what you're looking at, basically. What is your return? So in this case, it would be a good return because we're bringing more taxes in. More people are going to travel. You're going to buy gas. You're going to buy cars. You're going to fly more. You're going to take a train some more. You're going to use more internet. All that stuff is taxable. So in some form or fashion. So it helps to grow, helps to pay it back. It's a good return on investment. But some people say, oh, well, the national debt's just going to go way too high. Well, in the history of our country, we've always had national debt. All right, that's just, there's always been debt. It's the way our democratic society is set up. Any society really is to have some debt. That's good. So you keep the balance of it. And when you hear someone say, and this is an old school tactic, think of your kids, your grandkids, and your great grandkids having to pay this off. Well, you're right. That's something you should think about. But come to the understanding, they were saying this before we were born and before we were grandkids, kids, grandkids, or great grandkids, us. So debt has long existed before us. Debt is going to long exist after us. We just have to learn how to manage it. You know, that's my thought on that. It was something I was saying about based on what I was listening to John Oliver talk about. I mean, he kind of sort of said the same thing. He was just a little more detailed on it, we'll say. But like I said, I'm not here to pick and choose sides. Either way it goes, I just know that that's something that you should be aware of. That is, in a way, a scare tactic. We're always going to have debt. And we're always going to be paying it off. It's how we use it is how we should be looking at it. What is it being used for? Um, so the book I mentioned last week on Ray Montague, I got it. It's called The Overnight Code. Right here. I am only a chapter in. My reading time is kind of limited. Most of it just because I got so many pokers in the fire, but this is one poker I have enjoyed so far. I just got through the first chapter, which talks a little bit about her parents and her coming to be in her childhood growing up so far, well before college. Now, and they even say this in the book, her childhood wasn't horrible. Although her parents growing up and the things they saw when they were younger, horrible. And she grew up in Arkansas, and there was a lot of things, but like her parents went through the Dust Bowl, you know, and when got hard for everybody, especially hard for the black community, lynchings. They had one gentleman; he was the last official lynching, or at least documented lynching in Arkansas in 1927, I believe it was. And this man, not only was he lynched, but he was shot over 200 times. And then the woman that accused him of the thing he had done, which was this woman had essentially said that the man had raped her and her daughter both, came out after the fact and said that wasn't true. And of course nothing was done about it back then. There was no repercussions to that. And I found that really disturbing. Things like that really disturbed me, to think that us as an intelligent species, well, somewhat intelligent species, think that way and do those sort of things and look at another human that way. But anyhow, great read so far. I'm getting ready to start chapter 2, which is called Submarines. And I would imagine it's where she goes to see a submarine for the first time. And I will let you know how that goes. On a side note, her grandfather was an absolutely amazing man. He owned a farm and a drugstore. So, but I'll tell you about that on another day. Like I said, I'll let you know how it goes as I read it. And so far, I highly recommend picking up this book just to educate yourself on our past. Good or bad, our past is important. History is important, good or bad. And you can't have all good or all bad. You got to have a blend of both. It keeps you relevant, teaches you not to make mistakes. So the last thing I wanted to hit on today was a quote that we actually picked up. Me and Chris are pretty good on and enjoy inspirational quotes. Most of my friends on Facebook, no matter what we agree on in life, our quotes always, we believe on treating people equally and getting through the rough times together. We don't always see eye to eye on how to get somewhere. We don't always see eye to eye politically. But most of my friends, when it comes to treating each other with respect and kindness, we do that. But this one came from somebody that she works with. It says, you can't always choose your circumstances, but we can choose our response. And there's so much truth to that. Like the other day when we went to, when Chris was able to get our vaccinations on there, get our first round of vaccines done, and she was like, oh, it's at 1:30 today. And I didn't choose a very good response, to be honest with you. Now, I mean, after I responded, I thought about it for a second, but my initial response was, 1:30 today, I've already got things planned out for the day. I am not much of a spur of the moment person. I like to have, if you want me to do something, I need to know at least a week in advance, really, at least a week, because I usually have days off planned already for stuff that we can do together or stuff I need to get done here or, before work or whatever. So it kind of irritated me. What did irritate me initially, and I had to think about it for a minute, and then, and I'm like, well, okay, no, this needs to get done. This is important. Vaccine. If you haven't been vaccinated yet and you have the opportunity, please do so. And then Chris says to me a few minutes later, "What do you want me to call and cancel him?" No, but that was a not a good way to choose my response. Another way could be say you're at work and you're in a position of management, or you're not in a position of management. You're just an associate. And, somebody calls off. What do you do? Okay, well, I mean, you could get angry about it, or I could go, okay, what can happen? But from a manager point of view, I'm gonna start asking people, can you stay? With knowing in the back of my head that there might be a possibility I'm gonna have to stay and work some of that shift, at least get them through what would be dinner or lunch of that shift. Or as a crew person, a non-manager, I may ask you, hey, can you stay and work that shift? So you take a minute and you choose your response. If you get into an argument with somebody, before you lose your mind and blow your top, you should take a step back and take a breath. I never quite understood that saying, take a breath before you speak in anger. But I get it now. Do I always utilize it? No, probably not, but I try hard to. You step back and you take a breath and you think about what the situation is at hand before you respond to it. Now, there's sometimes, I'm sure there's an exception to everything. Like if you see a house on fire, and you see some lady screaming out the window, help, help. You still want to take maybe a millisecond to think about what your plan is, that doesn't get you hurt and gets them safe. If there's a car accident or something like that, you might be a little quicker to react. But you always want to take a second to choose how you're going to respond to a situation. If you don't, and you rush into it headlong, the situation could become worse. You could have a regret on it, or at minimum a thought 5 minutes later going, maybe I could have handled that different. I know the few times in my adult managing life I've lost my temper at work, and kind of got snappy or a little loud, I have often thought just 10 minutes down the road, Brian, you could have really handled that different. So you can't change what's going to happen as far as the circumstance, the issue at hand, but you can choose how you respond to it. That's kind of the way, it should work. Like I said, I know it doesn't always work that way, especially when you're younger and you have a tendency to be a little hot-tempered, or at least a more aggressive in your response. That could be that way, but it's something to think about. Hands down, you can't choose the circumstance, always choose the circumstance, but you can choose how you respond, good or bad. And always try to give a good response, in any situation. So that's really pretty much all I want to talk about today. I know it was a variety of things, but I really thought that was a great quote, and I thought it was something that we could talk about a little bit. I wanted to give you an update on the book. One thing I didn't really touch on that I have written down here was on heroes, and what makes a hero, but we can save that for next week, because there's lots of things that can make a hero depending on how you look at it and what circumstance may evolve from it. I definitely wanted you to know kind of a quick lesson on what is debt and deficit. There's a lot more to that. I could literally talk about it for a good solid 45 minutes of itself, but I didn't really want to. And I want you to know about the yogurt oatmeal thing, because that's really cool. Are you going to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. Say good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Yep. All right. Anyhow, I know it's only 20 minutes, but I know sometimes my videos can go long. A lot of times I want them to go long. They end up, not that I want them to go long, but they end up going long because I want you to know. I want you to be informed. Um, like when I cook, I slow things down. I want you to know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I want you to be able to do it. When I build things, same thing. When I garden, it'll be the same way. Matter of fact, um, tomorrow, Wednesday, you will not only have the cooking dinner, but we're going to do a lot of garden work outside in the yard, getting flower beds cleaned up. And I'll probably talk about some stuff with that too. So you may get to see that probably Thursday. Wednesday, we're going to do a dish called Steak Diane. It was somebody that, well, Mudrucker, who I talk about all the time usually on Wednesday nights because I watch his live stream. He had actually recommended a dish to cook that's called Steak Diana, and it's an old dish that is actually really fairly simple, and it involves steak. So this Wednesday we'll be having steak at any rate. The only way that'll change is if I find another recipe, which I doubt, because this recipe sounds really good, and it involves a nice sauce that goes over your steak. And we'll figure out something to pair it with, maybe some potatoes. So, anyhow, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you choose your response and your attitude. It's kind of like a choose your attitude for today, and you try the oatmeal because it's really good with the yogurt. I'm here to tell you, try it, and it's good for you. So help with your good cholesterol. But anyhow, I love you guys. Tell somebody else you love them. You have an amazing day. Enjoy the weather if the weather is great where you're at. 'Cause I know it's been good here in Ohio the last couple of days. And I will talk to you later. All right? Love you. Bye.